Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Starbucks. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we got Jim Rosati. Jim, Pirates in second place. Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Starbucks. My audio's on. Pirates are in second place. They are 5-4. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, it was a good homestand. They go 4-2 against the I guess it was the Cubs and the Nationals. So beat up on the Nationals, which hey, I mean, the Nationals don't look very good. So it was fun to win some games against them.
Right. Like the Pirates, we talked about the Pirates have Brian Hayes, they got Brian Reynolds. Like those are a couple things to be excited about. It's like the Nationals have Juan Soto, which is a really, really good player. And that's it. And we're talking the pitching staff. We're talking like everywhere. Mm-hmm. That's all they have. And it kind of showed this weekend as the Pirates beat up on them. Like, just put that in perspective. The Pirates beat up on them. So, pretty bad team. Like I think I jokingly said at the post game, I will take 162 games against the Nationals all season long. But, hey, regardless, the Pirates did what they needed to do. It was a bad team. They beat up on them. They won. It was a fun series. I think we all enjoyed it. And, like you've said time and time so far, the wins look good. The losses look bad. So far, more wins than losses. So it's been a fun season.
Yeah. I mean, the offense, and we'll go over kind of individual performances, but I mean, just as a whole, the offense has performed pretty well. I mean, team totals are a little bit above average hitting for the season. It took them a while to get the power stroke down because I don't think they homered at all. They may have had one home run against St. Louis, but they got off to a really slow start when it came to the power. But the power kind of came around a little bit this homestand, and yeah, I mean, right now they're sitting pretty as a slightly above average offensive team, which I don't think any of us would have foreseen that.
Don't downplay it. They're still the juggernaut. This is a great offense. It's very sustainable.
Yes, of course. Very much so.
Right. No, obviously, some joking in there as well, but we'll go into some individual performances, but you're right. Like as a whole, it seems as if, I hate to steal your thunder. Like you brought this up too, right? But this is what it is. Like the starting pitching there's definitely more to be desired. But then the relievers come in and, like most do their job. Like the bullpen has looked good. The offense has looked good. Like this team doesn't have any lead to start the game. And they come back and they win the games. Mm-hmm. And again, a lot of it's powered by the offense, the bullpen just keeping, the other offense at bay and just not allowing them to score. And so again, like it has been a very fun start to the season. I can probably definitely say, like, we know Brian Hayes is good, right? At least with the glove. The offense has really been there. We know Brian Reynolds is good. He's shown to be good. But we're getting a lot of contributions to a lot of players so far that I think you and I were just like willing to write off or wonder why they're still here. So kudos to them. And I brought up the Kevin Newman last NS9 Live. I just wanted to make sure we have eyes on what's happening here. Not to say it's legit, not to say Kevin Newman's good, but you know what? Take a look at this stuff. And I feel like there's some other players we can do the same for right now. Is it going to be sustainable? I doubt it. Like Michael Chavis is a great one we'll talk about. Is he going to bat 500 all year? Hell no. Right? But the thing about Michael Chavis, much like Kevin Newman, is why is he here? I think you and I kind of felt that way. Like, why is he here? The trade that happened last year was meh. Like it's not like the Pirates gave up much to get him, right? But I think I kind of felt, and not to put words in your mouth of how you felt, but my feeling at the time was we already have so much of a 40-man roster crunch. Like, why go get Michael Chavis? Just get some type of maybe a younger prospect that has like more upside. We didn't see a whole lot last year. Spring, we didn't see a whole lot. Here he is right now, batting 500, making some crucial hits, right? I mean, we already know about the Grand Slam, right? But he's made some crucial hits to, give the Pirates some leads and such. So, like that's one performance. Yoshi doesn't have much power, but he's getting on base. Like he's doing some things. Vogelbach is like the best leadoff hitter that ever happened in history. You know, like a lot of people have stood out so far that you just felt wouldn't maybe make so many, contributions this year.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much summed it up pretty good there. Reynolds and Hayes have kind of been the two stalwarts, right? Reynolds is looking good, Hayes is looking good, but yeah, I think definitely Chavis, and we can still criticize this roster construction. There's clearly
Sure.
it's
Well, I
clearly
don't
some
know.
issues
Can we?
with
It's
it. Yeah.
good.
And there's clearly some issues with it, especially from the pitching standpoint, right? Like the fact that there are no pitchers on the 40-man roster right now who aren't on the active roster, like that could pose a problem at some point here in the next few weeks. But
The catching
so
depth.
far, catching depth is just not anything to be desired for. But yeah, like you mentioned, there's been some people performing. Vogelbach's looked just fine out of that leadoff spot. Again, I like him there. Newman, we brought up Newman, and yeah, like I said, kudos to Newman because he went into this season. Clearly, the entire fan base was just like, we didn't want to see him, right? We want to see another guy. We want to see O'Neal Cruz at shortstop. We don't want to see Kevin Newman. But he was able to, at least through his first 6 games here, he's kind of brushed that to the side and said, you know what, as long as I'm here, I'm going to do my best. And he's performed through those 6 games. Ben Gamel, I don't know if you mentioned him, but he's also looked fairly good too, putting together some good at bats. He's got the highest walk rate on the team. Really, he's got 375 on base percentage right now, Ben Gamel.
Right.
And defensively, he's been making plays. Saturday night, he made those 2 diving catches. And then yesterday, that huge outfield assist where it was a relay in the corner. He threw it to Diego Castillo. Castillo threw it to Perez, and they nailed Josh Bell at home. That was just an enormous out to get out of the 8th inning, the 7th inning, to kind of keep things where they were. And then the Pirates were able to take the lead in the bottom half of that inning. So he kind of got the momentum going with that.
Yep. And, Will Crow, very happy about that as well. To jokingly say, in context here, the trade's still even. The Will Crow Josh Bell matchup was kind of fun. Will Crow's given up 3 hits on the season, and 2 came yesterday to Josh Bell. So obviously, of course, right? Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll get into more in-depth Will Crow, but gosh, yeah, you can't. Just what he's done so far out of that bullpen in his new role, he's been stellar.
But you're right, all the players you're talking about, most of them you pretty much just write off. You know what? I wanted to see Yoshi back. Why not? For $4 million. And it's not like he's doing what you would want him to do. He's supposed to be the power bat, but also this guy's getting on base at an elite clip right now. Everyone's getting on base, and they shouldn't be, but they are. So, and like you said about Ben Gamel, for a 4th outfielder, which is probably what he's going to be, he's been great. Offensively, the defense is what really stands out to me. Just seeing his defense out, he's helped this team, this pitching staff so much defensively. And the bat isn't hurting as well. We knew, and last year you saw, he's not a great bat, but he holds his own. He's going to be about league average. I don't know where this defense is coming from. That's something it's harder to fake, obviously, too, of course. But he's done in this early season, how he stood out so far. He's done fantastic. We know about all the middle infielders we have on this club. And again, we talked about Kevin Newman, how he's looked. Colt Tucker he's struggled. He had a big game. I think he had a 3-hit game. Not his last game, the game before that, was that maybe? Regardless, he had 1 big game, and that's pretty much it. Diego Castillo has looked pretty damn good as well. I guess that's really probably about it for the middle infield. But yeah, and then Michael Chavis. Michael Chavis is hitting the ball. He's hitting the ball hard. I don't know. When you look at this offense, again, we'll get in more individually, but the offense have just really looked good. There's really no other way to put it.
Yeah. I think you know, a lot of it is just like these especially these right-handed bench bats like Chavis and Castillo, like they're kind of being put in good situations here. Like I don't think Michael Chavis. I mean, they've faced a good amount of lefties so far. So like
Mm-hmm.
Chavis is getting those opportunities against left-handed pitchers, right? So it's just kind of like a way to like ease him in. He's it's just more comfortable standing in the batter's box against a lefty than a righty if you're Michael Chavis. So they like I know we kind of harp on those lineups like every day, and a lot of it is just because Diego Castillo isn't in them. um,
Right.
but as far as like those role players, they've done a decent job so far of kind of picking and choosing matchups that fit what they're good at.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. And like you put it perfectly. Like even though there's frustrations, they have done that, and like for again the most part they've come through. I still feel like you should give Diego Castillo more starts, and if that
Mm-hmm.
comes at the expense of Josh Van Meter, then that's even more reason to give him more starts. and like of
Right.
all the and this like I hate to just harp
Mm-hmm.
on the Josh Van Meter situation, but I don't understand why he's even on the team to begin with. Why that was even a choice when you have a plethora of all these middle infielders, anyways, that seemingly aren't that great. They're performing right now, but the only one who's not performing is Josh Van Meter. And it's like, and when you have the issues at catcher, why Josh Van Meter and maybe not just another catcher on the 40 man or such? But regardless, like he's on the team, he's not performing. Um, yeah, I
Yeah, I
don't know.
mean,
I
if we're gonna
forget where I
go
was
down
going
that,
with this. I just
if
needed to have some Josh
if
Van Meter
yeah,
slander.
I mean, if we're gonna go down that route, I would say, you know, having I don't know, maybe another person who's actually an outfielder and not an infielder would be nice because right now they have basically two outfielders on their roster. Well, three, I guess, since they acquired Marisnik, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they've got three outfielders on their roster, one of which only has played in 3 games, right? So they've got this whole position, right field, where they're essentially just starting a infielder like every day. And
Right.
that's not the greatest strategy in the world, I think. I don't think anything has like egregiously happened out there yet, but you know that just like at some point there's going to be some dumb play by someone in the outfield who shouldn't be there.
You're like, yeah, like that. I am
Yeah.
fearing that. There hasn't been like that situation.
Mm-hmm.
There's been Hoy Park situations where how does that happen? But like no one's gotten hurt at least. That
Yeah.
I get. And you're right. That's not good. That's not ideal. I don't hate it though. And I guess what I mean by that is there are definitely okay, so like O'Neill Cruz to me is a little bit different in this sense. But there are certainly some people who you feel like in order to make a team, it's going to be due to some versatility, right? Like the Colt Tucker. Let's go back to that. Like if he's going to
Yeah.
have some value, it's because he knows all the different situations. I think we're seeing more and more of that about Hoy Park. Like last year when the trade happened, we were
Mm-hmm.
intrigued by Hoy Park. I think we're seeing more and more what Hoy Park is, and that bat was maybe um doesn't translate. Put it that way, right? Like what happened last year in the minors was intriguing, right? The power, what he's done and such. It hasn't really translated, and I think like if he's going to be something, it's because he has the versatility and maybe a little bit of a bat, right? So like you're seeing more and more of that. So like I'm okay with like this third outfielder just kind of being that part right now. Now you do have Jake Marisnik. I'll put it that way. Like you do technically have it, but in the grand
Mm-hmm.
scheme of things, you probably want to see a little bit of Colt. You're moving forward. You want to see these guys. You know what Jake Marisnik is. He's there as a veteran. He's there as whatever. You'll probably see him more at the end of the year. But right now, just kind of seeing what you got going here. But again, like I point out, like Jake Marisnik can play center field, and he showed it as well.
Yeah.
So like
No, I mean,
again,
Jake
like there,
Marisnik is a real outfielder, and he's
yes,
actually pretty good at it. Yeah.
he's a real player. That's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like yeah, like I'm okay with that. Again, though, it that just doesn't make sense for the Van Meter, but whatever. So I don't know. So like, where do you want to go from here? So we talked about the offense. Do you want to get into the pitching side a little bit here? Then we'll go with like individual players.
Sure. I think you touched on it a little bit, and we've talked about it on like our spaces. If anybody's listening to our, just our daily spaces after the game, just quick, little 15-minute rants about what happened. But I mean, the pitching has been so far. They have an MO, right? They've got a set strategy that so far has been working in their wins, and that is starting pitcher 2 times through the order, roughly. And that's getting them, 4 innings for the most part. Once that 4-inning mark hits, if they can't get out of the inning that they're in, they're bringing in somebody to finish that inning. If they can get out of the inning, then they're typically starting off that first reliever inning with a bulk guy, right? Whether that's Will Crow, whether it's been Contreras, whether it's been Dylan Peters, right? Those have kind of been the 3 that they're shuffling to. Yeah. And then Yohore, right? So those 4 guys they've kind of shuffled through a little bit with being that long relief guy. And so far, those players have succeeded in those roles. Other than Yohore, but I think Yohore has only actually been in, when they've been down, and he's been pitching in the losses. I feel like the other 3 have been coming in when it's a close game or they're winning. But that's kind of been their strategy. They'll go 4 innings and then they'll go 2 or 3 with this long guy, and all of a sudden now you're in the 7th or 8th inning, and then you can finish it off with Stratton, Hembree, and Bednar, right? So that's kind of been their strategy. It's worked so far because up to this point, the starters haven't done so terrible that the Pirates are out of the game, right? So like it's still a ball game when those starters are coming out. And then those relievers are able to kind of shut the door for a few innings, and that opens up the door for the offense to get some work. So those 3 guys really, for the most part, Peters, Contreras, Crow, have been pretty valuable in those roles that they've been so far to kind of keep the other team at bay while the offense hopefully catches up. And that's kind of been that's how the wins have occurred so far this year.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And again, we will. Everyone's waiting. We'll go into Will Crow. He has certainly been like the highlight, I feel like, of all the pitchers so far this year. And unironically, I guess you can say, like, he leads the team in innings pitched. He's not even a starter. He has 9.2. Yeah. Second most is our opening day starter, Jose Quintana, with 9.1. So, Will Crow leading the pitching staff in innings, I think says a lot of what's going on, and kind of proves to your point, like it's really these guys that have been integral to the win so far. But you're right. Like, the pitching staff, I don't think any of us had any high hopes for it to come into the season. Quintana, I guess you could probably say, looks maybe better than what we expected, especially after that spring. But again, the spring for him didn't mean too much. He's been the best pitcher. Again, there's nothing to showboat over, but he's been the best pitcher. You're hoping for more out of Mitch Keller. I think we're seeing more of what we've always seen from Mitch Keller. So again, that spring didn't mean too much for him either. Yes, he's throwing 99, even hitting 100 miles an hour. But when you can't command or control that pitch, it doesn't really matter. That's kind of what we're saying in the offseason. Like, this is cool to see all this, but that's not his problem. Like, throwing 99 will obviously help and be better than throwing 93. But if he can't pitch, it's not going to translate, and he's still showing that. Still going to give him time because, again, this rotation isn't much to be desired. Like, Bryce Wilson, once again, just doesn't miss bats. He is what he is. JT Brubaker's just having another, like, second half JT Brubaker stuff right now. So, like, the rotation isn't strong. Zach Thompson has looked pretty decent. I'll give him that for, like, his one start. It wasn't terrible. But yeah, like, this bullpen has really come in and pretty much shut the door for the most part. Kept them in the ball games, have won them the ball games. And again, like, shout out to those middle guys that eat up those innings, especially Rowensy. So, like, Rowensy and Will Crow obviously stand out so far. And big shout out to Will Crow because we knew what he was last year. So far, we've shown this year the bullpen has. Can you say elite stuff so far? Can you not say not elite? You know,
I don't know if I'll go as far as say elite, but he has just like you mentioned, he looked like a completely different guy from what we saw last year. From like just a pitching standpoint, he's attacking hitters.
mm-hmm.
He's really utilizing his slider and his changeup, like just a heavy dose of sliders against righties, heavy dose of changeup against lefties. And I mean, you saw it yesterday, like he faced Juan Soto and he basically went, like, I want to say he went like change up against Juan Soto, and struck him out, right? Which is not an easy thing to do. It's Juan Soto. And that was actually his only strikeout of the game of yesterday's game. He didn't miss as many bats yesterday as he had been. But yeah, yesterday in particular, he just kind of stuck to those two pitches. He laid off the hard stuff. And so he got it done a little bit different than he had the first two times, but those two pitches must have just been working for him. He had good command of them. Yeah, I really like what I see out of him. And it's one of those things where if he's in this role, he's only seeing guys one time, you know, so he can kind of go out there with his full arsenal of pitches, you know, fastball, sinker, slider, changeup, and he can utilize them all and kind of go, you know, full on, let's attack these hitters. I'm only seeing them once, so I can kind of show them everything, right? I don't need to save stuff for later in the game. And it's like I said, it's 4 games, it's 9 2/3 innings, but
right.
he has looked extremely good.
That's the thing, and that's what always is the, I guess, to put a weird part in the early part of the seasons, right? This is all we have to go off of. Like, we're in the small sample size situation. Everything's small sample, but it's all you have to go off of. So you try to play into it and find out like if it's real, if it's not. The results are there, and let's find out how we're getting to the results and if this is sustainable or such, you know. And like everything that you're saying is like true about Will Crow. Like, I don't look at this and just say, well, he's gotten lucky. It's just been 9 innings. Wait until we're at 40 or 50 and things normalize. To me, he looks much different. He's doing things differently. Now, will it sustain? We'll find out. But I'm definitely intrigued again. I'm way, way back on the Will Crow train. You know, like what he's doing in this bullpen. And some pitchers just are that type. Like he's not a rotation guy. And like you said yourself, like he's facing guys just one time. And like this is what adds so much value to him is the fact like he's also not a 1 inning guy. Like he has gone out there for multiple innings, still just one time through the lineup. He doesn't have to face everyone the second time. So we can go to maybe even into the 3rd inning, you know, like he did that one time, like a three inning save he got this year.
Yep.
So like he adds so much value to that. Like he can stay out there, but he's looked so good, you know, like he's just a whole different type of pitcher right now. So I am, like I said, fully immersed in this, on board. Let's find out what Crow has. But this is something so far that we're seeing that feels like, again, we're not talking about, you know, a scoreless season, but feels like this is sustainable to some degree. But this isn't just luck. This isn't just, you know, guys are getting BABIP'd or whatever. Like, this looks different and to a degree sustainable. Like, he could be a good reliever.
Yeah, I mean that's basically it there. If you look at his you know, just like his StatCast page, right, and kind of compare it from last year. You know, last year there was a lot of blue, on that page.
Right.
This year there's a lot of red. So it's been a very pleasant surprise because, like you mentioned, we were ready to write him completely off. But again, he seems to be thriving in this role. So I just want to keep seeing more.
Same. And like another thing too is it's not even so much where it's like now he's in the bullpen, he's just firing it in. Like when you look at his last year for a season, you know, his fastball he averaged 93.7 and this year it's 94.3. So it's not like he's coming in there pumping like 99 now because he's in like the reliever role, you know? Like he's just doing things differently. He's pitching much differently. So I like it. And like also, you know, I think Connor said it on Spaces, and I agree too. Like, just mentally, he looks different. Like, the biggest part of like Mitch Keller, we just felt like is if he could just go out there and just feel like he's good and attack guys, right? Like, if he had that
Yep.
mentality, I think that would go a long way with Mitch Keller. You're seeing that from like Will Crow. Like, he goes out there and you just see him being a different type of player. And hopefully, like with his early success, it helps in that sense too for him, maybe going down there. So again, like with everything right now with Will Crow, I'm loving what I see.
Yeah. I mean, it's no other way to put it. So far, so good. Let's see more. And we talked about it on a couple of spaces too, but like the rotation I know isn't like the greatest thing in the world and like the greatest thing to be desired, but you know, there does come a time where if Will Crow continues to do this, do you talk about moving him into the rotation? And I'm like, I don't know if I do that because I mean, we've seen rotation Will Crow and we didn't like what rotation Will Crow. And this seems to be working for him. Like, I don't want to mess this up if it continues to be this good, but it's going to be a dilemma. Like, I mean, if it's definitely going to be a dilemma because like let's say if he continues this and all of a sudden he's a really good reliever who's giving you multiple innings, it's going to be a really tough decision to keep him in that spot because you're going to want to get more out of him, which is what a starter would do, right?
Right.
So it'll be interesting just kind of see how they handle the situation. Like if he continues this, I'm not saying continues like a 0.00 ERA, but if he continues to be a really effective reliever, but in like a 3 innings per outing type of role, will they try the starter thing again? And I don't know if I would do that. Like I kind of like him where he's at, where he's succeeding. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, let me ask you this because it's a very, very valid point, and that's probably a situation that they'll be in because injuries are going to happen, most likely. You know, last year I felt like they really got lucky not having as many injuries as they had. So, you know, like, probably not going to be that lucky this year. Probably going to have a couple arms go down. We already know the depth isn't really there. You know, obviously Ronesy will probably slide in there at one point too. But regardless, like there might be a situation where they need to have, you know, someone in that rotation, and it might just say, hey, you know, Will Crow, why don't you be that guy? I don't hate it. Like, I'm with you. I feel like this works. We saw Will Crow in the rotation. It didn't work. But again, maybe he's also just a different pitcher. Maybe there's something that he's learned, something he's doing differently right now that if he goes in the rotation, like he's probably not going to do this, but maybe he could be a good piece. Like maybe he could end up being like a number 4 starter. Ultimately, that has more value than being a good reliever. But I also feel like if he goes into the rotation and we find out, you know, maybe this isn't it, I don't think that's going to hinder too much. Is like put him back in the bullpen, let him do what he's doing. And this is kind of the season 2 to like maybe have that happen. Like if this is a playoff type of team, I would say don't F with it. Don't do it. Just keep him there. It's working. Get another starter, whatever. But like this is maybe the year to do that. Like we have guys that have never played outfield right now playing the outfield. So if you're going to maybe try to see if there's something there into the rotation, this probably is that year to find out. And if you put him back in there and you find out the second time, right after he's found success, and the second time in the rotation, find out he's not doing it, then I think like you can call it done. Like you've tried it, you experiment. Now you can close the books on it. He is a reliever and just move forward with him as a reliever, because you'll always have that like in the back of your head, right? What if? So like that's why I'm okay with it this year. To me, like I'm with you. Seems like this is working, and let's just keep it there. But this is probably also the season if you're going to try it to go ahead and do so. So I'm not going to hate it if they do. Is I guess pretty much where I'm going with it.
Okay, I mean that's fair. I could see both. Like I said, I think if we get to that situation, it's gonna start being a little interesting to see how they handle it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so Will Crow, elite. You'll not trade him. I put out there, right? Julio Rodriguez, Kelenic, and Marte, right, to the Mariners. You would say no, correct?
I would definitely say yes to that.
I will still.
But no,
if
yeah,
Mohico is doing this, I am capitalizing it all day. I know we fundamentally differ there, but
yeah,
that's
differ there.
just me.
Yeah.
All right. Move on then. From Mohico, anything else in the arms?
I mean, I guess the only thing to really add is, Ronesy had a real nice outing, this past week. I think we talked about that on Thursday night, so we won't harp too much on him, but he kind of bounced back from his first time out. Dylan Peters, another guy who has been called on twice now to go 2 innings each time, gotten the job done. I still am not quite I still haven't really formed any opinions on Heath Hembree yet. We've seen him 5 times. He's actually pitched the most games out of anybody on the team. And he's gotten the job done so far, but he hasn't really necessarily looked really good either. He hasn't struck out really anybody. He's just kind of getting it done right now. So I guess seeing more of Heath Hembree. His past few years have been pretty rocky, but again, relievers, everything's so small sample size that you never really, it's hard to look at reliever numbers and then kind of what they're going to be the next year. So who knows how that's going to go, but Bednar still looks like he's just that dude. I mean, we talked about it on
when he came in.
Was that Saturday's game? Came through big time, coming in the 7th inning. Actually, he came in the 6th. He came in the 7th, yeah. So he came in the 7th inning and shut the door down in a really, really high leverage situation. Great call by Shelton to go to him. He got the job done, pitched another inning. So, he went an inning and 2/3. And he came out the next day and picked up a save. So he was kind of rewarded for that with a save the next day. But no, Bednar looks good. So far the bullpen's held up. It's early. Let's see how long it can happen. But so far so good.
Yes, fully agree. All right. Cool. Well, I think another guy, like we said, we want to touch on. Let's go back to the bats here. Was Michael Chavis. He's certainly, again, one has stood out so far. Ready to write him off, and he's been one of the hotter bats in the lineup. Again, batting .500 on the year. Are we thinking this is sustainable? Is there maybe something to Michael Chavis? Is he showing why he was a top prospect and why Ben Cherington went after him the first time in Boston? Or is this maybe just he's having a good week?
I'm going to lean more towards the latter. 6 games, 18 plate appearances, anything can happen type of deal. I will say this, he's been fun to watch. He's come through in some really big situations too. So, I know there's clutch. You can have your thoughts on what clutch is, but so far Michael Chavis has been really clutch.
When I think clutch,
yeah,
I think Michael Chavis.
But you talk about in St. Louis, that grand slam to take the lead in the one game that they won. So that was a huge hit. Against the Nationals, he's come through a couple times in the 9th inning when they needed something to happen. They needed an insurance run on Saturday. He leads off with that triple, gets a couple extra runs, which they ended up ultimately needing because the Nationals scored some too. Yeah, that triple was huge. It started off, that was the 8th inning. I'm sorry, but yeah, started off the inning, and it was just excellent base running on his part. Most people I think would have gotten a double there, and he made it happen, got a triple. He noticed that, the left fielder was kind of being a little nonchalant out there. So it was weird. He kind of I mentioned on Twitter, he baited the outfielder into, I forget who was out there. I think it was Hernandez, but he baited him into thinking, oh, well, he's going to stick on second. And then all of a sudden, once that lazy throw came in, he darted for third and he got a triple, a leadoff triple, which is just huge in a at the end of game situation in a close game. He's kind of started a little rally there. And then yesterday he comes through, but he's well, I guess it wasn't bases loaded anymore because there was a wild pitch, I think. But I think it was second and third, maybe.
Mm-hmm. No,
Yeah.
first and second.
No, first. No, it was second and third because it was an. Yeah, I think I could be wrong, but gets the base hit on a 3-0 count. He's swinging away, drawn in infield, hits the ball hard past the shortstop, and gives the Pirates the lead. So he's been a big part in at least 3 out of the team's 4 wins. But I think it's more of just a hot week than anything. But he's been fun to watch.
Right. I feel like I'm going to revert to that as well. Like this probably, unlike Will Crow, this probably is more of just a small sample. Just one thing I was like noticing as I looking, at his stuff, as you know, last night, and I started going back and like others plate appearances and kind of finding out the dude just like swinging. And maybe it's just like, I mean, pitchers will probably adjust, but when you look at it, post like his career, he's swinging a lot more in pitches in the zone. And he's swinging a hell of a lot more at first pitch strikes. And like when you look, like most of his at bats are rather quick. and like what I mean by that, like the thing is, he's not just swinging away. Like he's not swinging at everything, right? Like he's taking balls and he's not swinging at those. But like the first strike he sees, he is attacking. Like he's being very aggressive at the plate. So again, I don't know specifically, if it's just the first fastball he sees. I know he's hitting like a lot of sliders and sinkers yesterday, but it seems as if he is just being aggressive. So again, I don't know, like the adjustment's going to come. I don't know how he adjusts. So we'll see, but like that's something that I'm noticing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think in the past 2 games he's had like 4 plate appearances that has been 1 pitch. So right, like you see ball, you swing the ball, he's connected, which is good. Like he's connecting, right? So I mean that's obviously a big part of baseball. But again, like I'm waiting for like the adjustment to come because to me this is so far like what he's doing. He's found success in doing it. So we'll go see what going forward. But again,
it's actually pretty interesting here. Yeah, I mean you mentioned I'm looking at his zone swing percentage on Fangraphs and it's 100%. So he has swung at 100% of the pitches inside the strike zone that he's seen.
Okay. Well, actually, that's weird because Baseball Savant has him at 93.3, but regardless, like that's a lot.
Okay.
And that might just be 2 pitches, but
it's probably just coming data from different places, but yeah, that's crazy.
Right. But his contact rate's much higher than his career. And again, small sample, but like for his career is like at 75%. League average is 82, and right now is at like an 89%. Mm-hmm. So like he's swinging at everything like in the zone, and he's making contact at most of the stuff in the zone also. So again, it's leading to success. I don't think that's sustainable, right? So but obviously, 500 is not either.
Right.
But again, I've said it, and I'll continue right now to this point. I am at least intrigued. Like he's opened my eyes, and that triple actually is. I'm not gonna say a big part of it, but I forgot about that, and that just stood out to me. Like that aggressiveness that everyone calls like he's got the bulldog in him too. That was just a great play to watch. I mean, I didn't expect him to be on third base, and he was. And like, what a great heads up play that was. So, I will again. This is not a good team. What Chavis is doing so far, should be rewarded and get some more playing time right now.
Yeah, I won't argue that.
Shelton might though, because I don't know if that's built into his scheduling plans as of yet. Doesn't seem as if there's any adjustments made for rewarding, but we'll find out.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. What else is on the agenda here?
I feel like we hammered the major league roster there a lot. We're 45 minutes in here. Do we want to shift to?
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about minor leagues at all this year, which is weird. We usually kind of touch on them a little bit, but let's kind of start. Let's talk about the minors. See how things are going at all levels.
Let's start off with AAA too. I mean, they've been playing the longest, and that offense has been looking pretty good from quite a few players. Do we want to start off with the one who's shining right now, which I know you tweeted yesterday, and I agree with, like the person that we've if we want to stick with the theme, right? Writing off the
Mhm.
guy who's crushing it right now in AAA, in Mason Martin.
Let's do it. Yeah. I mean, I mentioned it yesterday on Twitter that, yeah, I was pretty down on Martin heading into the year, right? And the Pirates left him off the 40 man. So if there was a roll 5 draft, like he was eligible for it, right? And so is there just not a whole lot to love usually about first basemen who strike out 34% of the time in Double A.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a lot. Now he didn't have the best game yesterday for Indy, so some of those numbers have changed. And then again, it's such a small sample size that, right? Like, I mean, I mentioned like, hey, through 9 games, he's looked pretty good, and the strikeout rate is down because I think going into yesterday, he had a 25% strikeout rate. Yesterday, not the best game, so that strikeout rate is now back up to 30%. He struck out 3 times yesterday in 4 bats. But he is hitting the ball. Like I said, yesterday went 0 for 4. I guess there's some things on here. There's still some areas of concern, right? Like he has a completely unsustainable BABIP of 480. He's still not walking. Through 40 plate appearances, he has 1 walk. Not something you want to see out of somebody who's probably a low average, high power, high strikeout guy. Because if you're a high strikeout guy, it probably means you're seeing a decent amount of pitches. You should be drawing some walks too. So, like I said, there's some causes for concern here, and that's the walk rate and the BABIP. Those 2 things. The BABIP's definitely going to change, right? The walk rate has to change if Mason Martin wants to be a successful major leaguer, right? You can't have somebody with a 235, 240 on base percentage who strikes out 30, 35% of the time in a lineup. Like it just doesn't work. But power, he's 2 homers through his first 10 games. He's batting 359, slugging 795. So it's been a good start to his AAA season. The strikeouts are down a little bit. Like I said, 30% now after his 3 strikeout game yesterday. But I think he's just somebody to just keep looking at. I don't think Mason Martin is in any means like someone who's knocking on the door. Like I want to see Mason Martin get like a full season at AAA to see, okay, you need to be able to master these guys, because once you make the jump from AAA to the majors, those sliders slide a lot more. Those fastballs are faster. Those changeups, have more tail, and they're harder to find out. So he's going to just be seeing a lot better pitching once he makes that next jump. And so if he can't get the strikeout numbers out, under control in AAA, then you're probably not looking at somebody who's going to be a productive major leaguer. But this is kind of a storyline to look at all year long, because the Pirates could desperately use like a first baseman. Like I feel like we've been saying this for 2 decades. I mean, it's been 2 decades now. Like,
and it's like one of the easiest positions to fill.
Yeah, like can we get like a good first baseman? And Mason Martin's really been like that first baseman prospect that you're kind of excited about a little bit in a while. So yeah, I mean, just somebody to keep an eye on, but he's not somebody who's like, I don't think we see Mason Martin in Pittsburgh this year, like really regardless of anything, unless it's very, very end of the year and he's finished off his whole season, maybe for a little bit, but
yeah, I mean, I could see it, but like, I'm with you as well. I think like this is a perfect example. It's the opposite of O'Neal Cruz. This is the guy who you probably want to see more in AAA, because like to me, he has a clear issue that needs to get cleaned up, because typically it does not translate to the major leagues, which is why we feel the way we feel about Mason Martin. I'm not saying that he's not going to be a major leaguer. He's not going to make it. Like he absolutely will. But he's going to get his shot. Like something as intriguing as him isn't going to not make it, right? But I'm with you. I will give him credit where it's due. Like so far in the small sample, like he's put it together. The strikeouts weren't there. Yes, after yesterday, now that they are. But like, I will give him every opportunity to prove me wrong. I don't feel he's going to translate to become a good everyday regular major leaguer. But so far, like the numbers are there, and like let's again stand out. Like he has 14 hits. Of the 14, he has 10 for extra bases. Like that is
Yeah.
Mason Martin. He has 5 doubles,
Mhm.
3 triples. By the way, Mason Martin has 3 triples. This isn't Starling Marte. This is Mason
Mhm.
Martin. 3 triples on the year and 2 doubles. So like mind you, like there's definitely power. He's slugging almost 800 right now. But right, he has to clean up the strikeouts. And I hate to sound like the broken record. And yes, like you can strike out a lot in the majors, but most of the people who strike out a lot in the majors right now don't have the strikeout levels in the minors either, you know? So like you feel like it's going to go
Right.
even higher. So he's going to be a 40K guy in the majors. I don't know, but like that's potentially what you're looking at. And with a guy who
Mhm.
doesn't walk, like the difference, like too, like Vogelbach walks. That's why you like him at the leadoff hitter. Like at least he does that. He has a low average. He doesn't get on base a ton, but he walks. Mason Martin just simply doesn't do that. So like his production has to come by getting on base via hits and of course power. But again, kudos to Mason Martin so
Mhm.
far. I'm going to give him every opportunity. I hope obviously he turns out to be something because just like you said, like the Pirates desperately need a first baseman, and it would be really cool if there's one who probably can hit 40 home runs in his sleep in the majors as well.
Yeah.
Um, let's also just kind of talk about like the odd man that like no one ever talks about anymore, and he's like the first guy who got to see Major League, baseball last year, and since like Rodolfo Castro, like still is 23 years old. He's like the guy that no one ever talks about anymore. I feel like
Mhm.
he's doing his thing in the minors right now. Triple A's batting 333 on base 475. Here's a guy taking walks. He's got 9 walks and 9 strikeouts in the year in 11 games.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the thing that jumps out the most about Castro is getting on base. He's
Yes.
walking in over 20% of his plate appearances. And again, like this is someone who is interesting because of one of his versatility, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think at some point, if Castro is somebody I want to see back in Pittsburgh, um, like I don't want to see Hoy Park anymore, right? I don't know if I want to see Hoy Park. Like, could Rodolfo Castro take Hoy Park's roster spot, or how about Josh Van Meter? Like, what is Josh Van Meter doing on this team when you've got a Rodolfo Castro? Like, I'd much rather see Castro getting at bats and starting every other day or so, because like I don't think Rodolfo Castro is necessarily like he's not a major league starter. Like I don't think he's at that point. But I think he does have some usefulness on a major league team because of his versatility, and he is a decent hitter. Like he's got power. Um, like again, he's showing that he's getting on base this year. It's only 11 games, but that's just it's nice to see. I want to see more Rodolfo Castro. And I think out of all the people down here in AAA, he's probably the first one that we see come back up. That would be my guess.
That makes a lot of sense, probably, and like, a lot of it is just simply because of the
Mhm.
versatility, and also because like if you look at the holes, which there's many in in the
Mhm.
majors, I guess could we say outside of catcher, you could possibly see something of catcher just simply because of injury and a move has to be made. Um,
True.
like theoretically, Michael Perez
Yeah.
could be the first, or Taylor Davis could be the first because you have to. But
Yeah.
like on a true
That makes
call up
sense.
promotion, right? Because of being rewarded of your player or whatever, like I could see Castro as well. But again, like he was last year too, so it makes sense. Um, but like you're right, and I don't particularly know why, but it just seems as if Castro is always the afterthought. I mean, he was the first guy that was on this club of the guys we're talking about right now last year. Like he was playing Major League Baseball. And yet we never talk about him. We kind of forget about him and that whole plethora of like these middle infielders, and they're terrible. They're not good. We're kind of seeing like yes, like
Yeah.
with Hoyt Park, and he clearly can't play outfield, clearly. So like that's gone. He's simply just an infielder. Um, I'm good with that. I think we're leaning towards identifying what Hoy Park is, right? So
Yeah.
Rodolfo Castro, he I don't know. He had eyes on
Yeah,
last year. I was intrigued with him.
he's also a guy where, we talk about the versatility and somebody who you can put in the outfield. Like he has yet to play outfield this year in AAA. He didn't play outfield yet last year either in AA or the major. So I think that's kind of the next step for Castro. Like I would try him out in the outfield just to add that versatility to him. Like while he's down here in AAA, give him some outfield reps, because that's just going to add more to his value. Like if the reason why Hoy Park is here and Rodolfo Castro isn't is because Hoy Park can play outfield, then we need to teach Rodolfo Castro outfield. Like that would be what I would do. Right. I wouldn't be teaching O'Neal Cruz outfield. I would be teaching Rodolfo Castro outfield.
That makes a lot of sense. Again, yeah. I don't think Castro is an everyday player. I don't think he could prove us wrong. Like, think of Jay Hay. Yeah. Like, that's a good example. Jay Hay, you never thought was like, okay, he's going to be our starting second baseman or third baseman or whatever. It's like he's super versatile. He's going to play everywhere, and that's the value. And then he just kind of came to that. Like, he became a productive player. And, like, that's what Castro probably would end up being. Like, if he can learn all the positions, right? Let's talk about, like, Colt Tucker. Like, if there's going to be a spot on him, on this team for him, it's because he knows all this. And, like, if Castro could know all the positions, you're right. That just adds that value. Now, his bat, again, I would assume is going to be better than Colt Tucker's, but that's an add value like the Jay Hay. But, like, yeah, like, instead of just limiting him to the infield, try to get him to play everywhere. I'm with you. Like, that's the guy that you want to get a glove for every position, where O'Neal Cruz, you're our shortstop.
That's where I'm at. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
You learn everywhere, because in order to make a club, that's probably how you're going to do it.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Who else do we want to talk about?
So the pitching isn't really much to be desired down there. I mean, we'll touch on O'Neal Cruz, right? Obviously, huge. He hasn't had the best start to the minors so far. He's 219, 306, 344. He's kind of yet to really kind of find that power stroke down there in AAA. Again, 9 games though. Not really super concerned with anything that O'Neal Cruz is doing, because if you look at his other numbers, 11% walk rate, 22% strikeout rate, like those are right where you want to see him, right? And now it's just a matter of him kind of getting his timing down and finding that stroke. So that we saw in spring training, but not too concerned about O'Neal Cruz. But obviously, it's a lot easier to be kind of banging on the door if you're crushing it. So, let's see it soon.
Right.
Travis Swaggerty, not off to a great start in Indy either. 194, 286, 226. The power just is not there. Not really hitting extra base hits at all. He has 1 double in his 35 plate appearances. This is only extra base hit. So need to see more out of Travis Swaggerty, because, we kind of thought that he would be that third outfielder maybe later on in the year, just because of 1, the lack of depth, and 2, he does have the pedigree. He does seem like he's capable, right? Based off of his minor league numbers, he seems like he could be a capable major leaguer. I don't know if he could be a good one, but I think he could be capable. So Swaggerty's struggling a little bit off the bat. I think I just want
to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I'm also okay with that right now. He's the one where, like, I feel also you're going to be patient with. It's not as if I'm writing him off right now because he's only batting 194. Like, he's coming off that injury. He's had the whole offseason. He didn't get, like, you never really saw him in spring, right? So him having a slow start, to me, is almost meaningless. That's fine. Get yourself adjusted. Like, his season to me is, like, going to start in May. Like, how does he start looking now in May going forward? That's all I want to put.
Good point.
Like, I'm perfectly okay with him batting 194. I'm not writing him off. That means nothing to me at this point in time. How's he looking a month from now when he's getting into the season? Then we'll start talking.
Yeah, it's a good point. I don't want to spend too much on these guys in AAA just because at this point they're just depth guys. But G1 Bay off to a pretty decent start, just really fast. He's got 5 stolen bases already in 10 games. Cal Mitchell, has looked great. And I think he's somebody who we saw a little bit of him in spring training too. He just kind of looks the part. Like he looks like he could be a major league outfielder, maybe not necessarily a starter, but like I feel like Cal Mitchell is a guy who can be on a team. If not now, then soon. And then Kanan Smith and Jigba not off to a great start. So just kind of hit up on the semi interesting people there in Indianapolis.
Yep.
That any other things to add on those guys?
No, to me, that's pretty much it too.
Yeah. There's Cody Bolton is, I guess, the one interesting pitcher there. He has they've been taking it easy with him a little bit. He's 6 innings pitched in 3 games. So he's kind of going a little bit at a time. They're kind of easing him in. So we'll see a little bit more about Cody Bolton later on in the year, I'd imagine.
Yep. And I guess just one other thing too, not like an interesting prospect, but Chase DeYoung has pitched very, very well as part of that. It was a team no-hitter, right? They had the other day. I think he went 7 innings of it.
Yeah, I think, and then I think with that, yeah, with that, that is enough to chase the young talk.
Right. All right.
Double A. Let's start. I guess let's just really mention Liover Peguero. So far, some power, 2 homers in 7 games. 7 games though, so it's really hard to figure out anything about Peguero yet, but he at least seems to be somewhat holding his own there. He's one of the youngest people in the entire Eastern League. He's just turned 21 a few months ago, so he just has been one of those guys where every position, every level he's been at, he's been one of the youngest people there, and he's just kind of consistently been able to hold his own and show that he belongs. And it's only a week into the year, but he's at least shown that he so far he can play the level.
Right. And just something to put out there too, because I was like wondering too also, because with it being so early, it's just 7 games, it's a week, right? What stands out, like his BABIP is 190, so it seems like he's having a little bit of bad luck there, because he is actually walking some. His strikeouts aren't like egregious, so very low BABIP right now. But yeah, the 2 home runs, very encouraging at this point.
Yeah, and these AA numbers are all really small sample size because they even started a week after AAA. Nick Gonzalez, real quick, he's played in 8 games, walk rate super high. Definitely hitting for. He's got his on base percentage is kind of carrying his weighted runs created plus, but early on striking out way too much still. Yeah. So again, it's 36 plate appearances, so. It's been basically a week, but just we want to see that strikeout number go down for Nick Gonzalez before we kind of anoint him that future batting title champion. So something to keep an eye on there. The guy I wanted to kind of touch on, though, from the hitters really in Altoona, and somebody we didn't really talk much about during the offseason because we were kind of unanimously not very happy about the trade in general. So I don't know if we just didn't talk about it, but let's talk about Conor Scott just for a little bit. And again, all this is super small sample size, but we're talking about someone who he was the 13th overall pick in 2018. This isn't just some bum, right? He was a 1st round pick just a few years ago. He's 22 years old. So it's not like he's not like an old guy who's had to repeat levels or anything like that. He's been moving through the system. He wasn't that great, when he was 18 and 19, right? But then in high A last year, he was semi-productive, showed some power, was a pretty decent hitter. And now you're in AA, he's 22, so very age appropriate if you're talking about a prospect that you should be intrigued about, right? 22, he's through 7 games, and again, very small sample size, but in those 7 games, he's 12 for 24. He's batting 500. He's got 3 doubles, a triple, and a homer. He's absolutely crushing the ball right now. He's 500, 586, 833 is his stat line through this first week. So I think we kind of I said, I don't even remember us talking about Conor Scott very much, just because we were more focused on
Well,
the Stallings and Thompson part.
yeah.
But Conor Scott, I mean, I'm interested. He's got my interest. I am now focused on like, okay, Conor Scott, what do you have?
Yeah. Right. Well, and like me personally, like I mentioned him, and I guess
Mhm.
my total talk of mentioning him was how much I hated him. Right. Like I specifically remember the trade happened, and I said,
Yeah.
why even bring a Connor Scott? He's trash. That may or may not be my exact words, but it's probably very similar if it's not. I do not believe in Connor Scott. He's been terrible. And so far I'm eating my words, and obviously this entire trade, we're talking about the same level, Altoona. The other guy was Kyle
Mhm.
Nicholas, who's also looking very good. Um, it's very early, and I'm with you. Like it is just 7 games, right? Um, give it
Yeah.
some time. But so far in these 7 games that you have, he's looked fantastic. And I don't know, like Jacob Stallings, again, like in that sense, Jacob Stallings is not looking too good in Miami for this short period of time of Major League Baseball, right? And then you have these two guys like Kyle Nicholas has 2 starts now, yeah. And then Connor Scott has had a really good week. And you look at Zach Thompson, he had just 1 start. Like so far, like these guys on this side of the trade are kind of performing, right? And the prospects are really performing. So it's early season, but call it for what it is. It's looking good on this side right now. And yes, Connor Scott is
Yeah.
part of that. And I don't know if he can turn around. Like you said, he is just 22. Um, there's spots in the outfield. We know that for sure.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the main thing here. Like with the amount of outfield depth that we have in the system in general, like it's kind of that like if there is a weakness in this system, it's the outfield, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like guys who could maybe be role players, but there really isn't an outfield prospect that you're looking at and like I cannot wait until that guy gets to the majors, right?
I feel like the
Um,
outfield prospects are like the major league infielders right now. Like they're guys. There's a lot of them.
yeah,
It's
yep,
just
good point. Yeah,
there's not good ones.
right. No, that's a good point. Like you kind of hope that like one of these outfield prospects hits, right? And if like one hits, then that's a success.
Right.
So the more that you can throw at that wall, the better. And Connor Scott is now looking like somebody who, like this guy, maybe there's something here. Again, it's 7 games, so pump the brakes a little bit, but he has piqued my interest enough to be like, when Altoona has a game now and I see the final score, like and I'm checking the box score, like Connor Scott is going to be somebody who I'm going to check to see how he did,
I like it. So
and
Connor Scott,
and yeah,
officially a guy you can throw at the wall.
yes. Yeah.
All right.
Good way to put it. And you mentioned Nicholas. He's been great so far through 2 starts. Michael Burrows, also a
Yes.
big guy to talk about here in Altoona. He has looked really good in his first 2 starts. 8 scoreless innings so far. He has struck out 10 in those 8 innings. He has not given up a walk. He's given up only 4 hits. He looks good. The stuff looks really good. Burrows is somebody who you might see him just kind of darting up midseason prospect lists. I could see that being a case.
I'm with you because
Yeah.
it seems as if the people that matter to are talking about him. He's not getting the
Yep.
love yet. Like he's not one of those prospects that, well, obviously he's not because, the way we're talking about him, but it's not as if like he's
Mhm.
been on a lot of people's radars. And I feel like this might be the season that it finally happens because I think he had a good season last year, right? And we obviously, the lost season is affecting so many players, but he had a good season last year. I think he started getting on people's radars. And the way it's starting out right now and what you're hearing from other people, I forget who put it or who they're talking to or whatever, but I saw the article or tweet or whatever, but someone was mentioning, actually it might have been on the broadcast. I don't remember. But someone mentioned like he's always been on my radar. Like I've always looked at him this way. He hasn't like just come out of
Yeah.
nowhere. I know what Mike Burrows is. So I'm intrigued to find out how this season's going to go for him because like that's another thing too. if we talk about like lacking or depth in in an organization, it's not that we don't have any arms, but we could certainly use a pitching prospect like Mike Burrows to kind of pan out and become something. So so far, like you said, so damn good.
Yeah, he looks really good. And then real quick, we don't want to use too more time this morning, but Greensboro, probably again, a very, very prospect heavy team. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 top 20 prospects on Greensboro. Henry Davis is there, looking good. Good start to the year so far. 8 games. He's a 128 weighted runs created plus. He's got a homer. He's walking. He's not striking out. He's kind of doing everything you want him to see. Obviously, I don't know how long he'll stay there. I could think maybe a month, because there's also a catcher in Greensboro too, by the name of Endy Rodriguez, who's also playing very well, and you probably want to get him more time behind the plate. So like, see if we can split up Davis and Endy Rodriguez, get Davis into Altoona with kind of the rest of that group of guys, Peguero, Gonzalez, Priester, Burrows, those types. So they can kind of arrive together in a wave, but Davis has looked good. Endy's looked good. Escato, the other top 20 hitting prospect on the team. Very, very, very young for the level. He has not even turned 20 yet. So they're being very aggressive with Michael Escato. The power is kind of the one thing that jumps out to me so far. 7 games, he already has 3 home runs for Greensboro. That's really all he's done so far is hit those home runs. But he'll be somebody where I think kind of similar to Peguero last year, like where Peguero's offensive numbers, nothing really jumped out at you, but the fact that he was just so young for the level he was at, it was impressive, right? So, it's that kind of keep that in mind with Escato, right? Escato is 19, whereas somebody like Endy Rodriguez is, about to turn 22, right? So like that's going to be the difference there. And what kind of makes Michael Escato kind of intriguing is if he can hold his own at this level against other really good prospects who are 22 years old, and you have 2 more years of development than him, then there could be something there with Escato.
And like another big win for that Zion trade. But yeah, you're right.
That's true.
And what I think is kind of unique and funny to this, you mentioned about Endy and Henry Davis, right? But when you look at this team, the top 3 plate appearances, right, are all catchers. It's funny. Like that's the team. Like it just ends up. This was an organization a few years ago that had no catching depth, and right now the players leading the team in plate appearances, and Endy Rodriguez at 40, Henry Davis at 38, Abraham Gutierrez at 37. Like they're all catchers, and they have the most plate appearances. So like, I hand it to that team right now, trying to figure out how to spread those apart, but they're doing it very well.
Yeah, they're trying to figure it out. They got 3 like legit catching prospects there.
Right.
So that's why I think Davis gets moved to Altoona relatively quickly. And so that way you can kind of get more time to Endy and Gutierrez there.
Yep.
Real quick though, I also want to just touch on, this team's actually pretty interesting to me. I wish they had their games on TV so you can get more video of these guys. They were in Wilkes-Barre, and it looks like all the videos were just like taken on a flip phone there. But 2 guys who I almost like think they're almost exactly the same, both of which kind of struggled with the hitting part of their tools last year. But Hudson Head and Sammy Ciani, both off to good starts in Greensboro. Both of them are getting on base at over a 400 clip. Sammy Ciani, and this might just be his thing because he did it last year too in Bradenton, but he walked 20% of the time in Bradenton last year. He's got 22% walk rate now in Greensboro. He has 2 home runs, so the power is getting there. Again, he's just another outfielder that young, like not somebody to be super excited about yet, but he held his own in Bradenton. He's doing more than holding his own through the first week here in high A. And then same thing with Hudson Head, held his own, not really. He had some red flags last year, right? That need to be addressed, but kind of same thing with those 2. So fun team to watch. It's a fun young team to watch in Greensboro this year between really all these guys that we've talked about. And then there's one pitcher I want to talk about, but do you have any thoughts on those outfielders?
No, I think you make a point. Like that's the thing. Like with Hudson Head, you know he was going to be a project to begin with. So I don't think anyone's like looking like last year. You're just going to see like this product. Like this is going to be the development growth, and what he's doing right now is good. Like you said, it's a week. We'll find out. But he is definitely getting on base. But let's go to the pitcher because I want to talk about him too.
Yeah, like my God, Jared Jones in the start of his season. Last year, he had just these incredible strikeout numbers. Last year, he threw 66 innings for Bradenton. He struck out 103 batters in 66 innings as a starter. This year, through 2 starts, he's thrown 8 1/3 innings. He's struck out 15. He's striking out over 16 batters per 9 innings right now. 3 walks, 5 hits. He's only given up a run. But like, this is a guy where the stuff is just, he's basically unhittable. Like he misses so many bats, and he's somebody who like, I haven't really seen him in person yet. I want to see Jared Jones in person. Like I've seen videos and all that. Like I want to see him in person, just kind of see what he looks like. I'm really excited about Jared Jones and what we're seeing out of him. Just the strikeout numbers are eye-popping. You don't see those type of strikeout numbers typically out of anybody. So yeah, like Jared Jones, you have my attention. Those numbers are like they're not just like something that are good to see, like they're eye-popping. Like if you're looking at a page, it's the first thing your eyes gravitate to is a 16.2 strikeout per 9 rate. Like that's unbelievable.
Yep. I'm with you. Like it's very intriguing. Like this is a guy like I'm already looking at and saying if he doesn't make it as a starter, like you can probably pencil him. He will be a reliever in the major leagues at one day. Like I guarantee it.
Yeah, you can't have that amount of strikeout stuff and just like you mentioned, like if he's not a starter, which just based off of the videos I'm seeing, like his motion and everything is so high energy. Like I don't know how he's starting games with the way he throws the ball, but he's doing it so far. Let him do it as long as it's effective, I guess.
Right. So what I want to do is like put a comparison. So like you're looking at like the K per 9. Look at like strikeout percentage too. Like he struck out last year 34% of the batters. That's again how it translates. Obviously, it's going to go up. Is we'll find out. But like that's Garrett Cole numbers. Like put it here. Like Garrett Cole the past few years. Last year 33.5, 32.6, and of course with Houston 39%. Like that's Garrett Cole stuff. And this year it's at 48%. Again, a very small sample, just the 8 1/3. But
yeah,
he's striking out half the batters.
I mean that's crazy. Yeah, so Jared Jones, excited about Jared Jones for sure.
Yes, very intriguing.
I mean he went, I think he pitched yesterday. And he went 5 innings, gave up 2 hits, struck out 8, only walked 1. And that kind of seems to be the interesting, like he's striking out all these batters and he's not, like the walks aren't there either. Like he's showing command and control of these pitches, which again, it's great to see.
Yeah.
He's only 20. Yeah. So that's Greensboro. I think that's kind of it there. Jared Jones is the only top 20 pitching prospect on the team. Bradenton is definitely, if you're looking at a team, like probably the least interesting team so far, but I think they're going to be interesting. They just haven't brought up like those high school guys from last year's draft. They'll probably eventually end up in Bradenton, but they're probably just getting a little bit extra time and extended spring training right now. But I would expect people like, Lonnie White Jr. and Solometo and Bubba Chandler to be in Bradenton soon. But for the time being, they're not the most exciting team. Rodolfo Nolasco is kind of the top prospect there, and
you mean you don't
a week, but
want to see Anthony Alford?
No, we don't.
I thought that's what we're going to talk about. I thought we were waiting so much to talk about Anthony Alford.
That's true. I guess Anthony Alford is there for rehab, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
And this could be real quick, but it seems like he's a guy who like he's not really on the radars, but he's kind of on radars. But like Alexander Mohico,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
2 home runs, 3 doubles, batting 400 right now for them. Like that's that dark horse, right? He's way on the outside, but he could become a prospect. So far, so good for him.
Yeah, I mean, with Mohica, you're talking about, I mean, he's repeating the level, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at the age and you're like, that's probably fine, right? Like he's 19. So you're not talking about like a 21-year-old who's repeating A ball. Like he's still just 19. They were aggressive with him last year, putting him there, I think.
The youngest on the team.
Yeah, so he's still very young. And yeah, absolutely, he's tons of power. I don't know if he really has a position at all. So like, I mean, he's probably a DH, right? Tons of power. And last year he kind of tapped into it a little bit, but again, he was 18. So this year, like it would be interesting to see, like, can he, now that he's gotten a full year of A ball, this is year 2. Yeah, like can he go out there now and say, hey, you know what? I've done this already. I've been at this level before. And I'm just gonna tee off against you guys. Right. So let's see if he can do it. Because he did it. He did it when he was 16 in the Dominican League, right? He just crushed the ball. And that's what kind of got him on our radar originally. So now he's 19, he's in the States. Yeah, let's see if you can do it here too.
Yep. I like it.
Yep. I think that's it. Minor league rundown.
Nice. Well, yeah, like with that said, a lot of early season stuff. Pirates take on the Brewers now. Are they gonna take the series? They're gonna take the series.
I mean, if I were a betting man, which I am, I probably wouldn't bet on the Pirates to win the series. But hey, you never know. This team's looking good right now. They're gelling. If the start, we still haven't really seen. We saw Quintana had that one effective start, right, where he went 5 1/3, gave up 1 run. If we can get some of that, right, like we're 9 games in. We've had one starting pitcher actually pitch well through 9 games. So that's a pretty low, success percentage there of success. If we can just get a couple starting pitchers to string together some good starts, then this team could pull off some wins, because they're winning. I mean, they're 5-4, and we've only seen literally one good start so far, and the Pirates actually lost that start.
Right.
They lost 2-1. So every game they've won so far, the starting pitcher has not looked good.
Well, tonight's Zach Thompson. So we talked about the trade to Miami, right, with Stallings. So this is the other part of it. So we'll see Zach Thompson once again, see how he looks tonight against the Brewers. And I guess we'll go from there. Tonight, 7:40 start. Maybe we'll have a post game on Spaces afterwards. So with that said, we'll see you then. Any last words for you, Jim?
No, that's it. See you guys.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.